All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to tonight's webinar. Super great to have you with us. It's fantastic to be able to share with you once again, and a rare opportunity to be with you and share with you live, number one, and free, number two. So great to have you on board. I've got the Q&A up. If along the way you guys have any questions, be sure to hit me up in the Q&A on your webinar. Let's see if we've got everything positioned exactly how we need to have it. Looking good. All right, let's go to work. Hey, today I want to talk to you about selling your way out of a crisis. I think that everybody agrees that this is a time of crisis in a lot of ways. It might be crisis economically for some. It might be crisis as far as the pandemic is concerned for some people locking down, businesses struggling. Some people might be furloughed or off of work. So many things that we could identify as a crisis. And so we recently did a webinar on how to market during the time of crisis to get your message to cut through all of the noise. As you know, that marketing does not get you new clients. Marketing, what it does is it creates awareness. It creates awareness about who you are and what you have to offer the world. It creates awareness about what problems that you solve and how you can help people to achieve their goals. My name is Dr. Sean Dill. You might know me. This is going to be important later on, but you might know me from these various entities, from Billion Dollar Mission, the Specific Chiropractic Center franchise, to KATANA. If you're not yet on KATANA, you're missing out. KATANA solves an awful lot of these problems in an automated way, helping you to reach more people, create the impact that you want, and also to create the lifestyle that you deserve, helping you to automate your EHR, make it go to work for you, and become a patient relationship platform, the very first of its kind in the industry. I'm sure you'll see other people emulating that with integrated funnels, email sequences, texting capability, tying in with Chiro revenue, your social media, digital marketing, advertising, all of that. One-stop shop, KATANA, check it out. Also Chiro Sushi with our flagship event every year, summer camp. And of course there is Black Diamond Club. All of this I do alongside my wife, Dr. Lacey Book. If any of these things interest you, be sure to reach out. But here's what I want to share with you. I oftentimes do this. This is a controlled experiment today. If you've ever heard me speak before, you know that since we're talking sales, that what I'm going to do is I'm going to teach you what I'm doing while I'm doing it to you. So this webinar, unlike the last webinar, has an offer, but the offer is really just to see whether or not this works. I encourage you to, one, take notes, two, separate yourself from the experience. As I'm working through the process, I'm simultaneously selling you while teaching you. Now, in the past, I've done this with ridiculous success. In fact, this past August at summer camp, I announced at the beginning of my talk that I was going to sell, that I was going to close $250,000 from the stage, 350 people in attendance, and I was going to close $250,000 in sales from the stage. And in actuality, I ended up closing in my talk $350,000 in sales. I want you to understand that equates to $1,000 per person who was in attendance. And I pulled it off by teaching them how I did it. Well, today's a little less able to be done because we're doing this via webinar. A lot of you are watching this and you're multitasking, and I don't have you totally locked in. However, if you know me and you pay attention, I'm sure that you will find some gems here as I teach you how to sell in this time of crisis. And I think that you would agree that the majority of you, in some way, shape, or form, your business is in a space of crisis, not necessarily closing, but after all, you are on this webinar with me for a reason. So the first concept is the concept of turbulence, and turbulence is super important. We have this image here of the plane. What I think most people who fly, there basically breaks down into two groups of people. One, the people who either don't mind turbulence or even enjoy it. And then the other group of people who are frightened. Turbulence makes them scared. It makes them nervous. It creates sweaty palms. And they're like, well, I don't like the turbulence at all. There's two sides to the story. However, what I want you to know is that turbulence is actually necessary to create lift and get the plane into and keep it in the air. You see, the turbulence is that effect that's happening, that lift that's happening around the wings that keeps that plane suspended in the air. With no turbulence, the plane could actually never get off the ground. So as a concept, it's actually a very good thing. It's the thing, it is the thing that keeps the plane up in the skies. Likewise, I think that it is super important to understand that turbulence in business is a good thing. And I think everybody dreams of just smooth sailing all the time. But without turbulence, then we actually don't have anything to keep your business constantly growing, adapting, and on the upswing. Now, a lot of my viewers are going to be chiropractors, and I understand that. And this is a time that for chiropractors, this is like a sink or swim moment for a lot of you, as we really do test your philosophy. You know, chiropractic is based on this idea that the body is a self-healing organism, that it comes completely complete, and that the nervous system controls all of the cells and functions in the body. That interference to that nervous system can cause the body to lose the ability to adapt to its environment, both internal and external. That ultimately health boils down to your body's ability to adapt. Well, I'm here to tell you that basically your business is the exact same. You see, your business probably was hatched as an idea in your mind. In and of itself, it was complete, whether you drew it out on a back of a napkin in a diner somewhere, or you just were brainstorming one night with your friends, or you actually created a full-fledged business plan. But in its creation, I'm sure that you looked upon that creation and you thought that this creation was complete. And then you actually started the business. Now, once business started, the environment begins to change. And maybe there's times when you have a lot of sales and a lot of revenue, and there's times when you don't have so many sales. Revenue is low, expenses are high. Maybe you are trying to onboard, hire people. Maybe you got lucky and you onboarded a ton of people. But I'm here to tell you that ultimately, at the end of the day, your business success is predicated on your business's ability to adapt. Therefore, the turbulence that's occurring in the world today is actually good if we can all learn how to adapt to it. So I'm here to tell you that things are changing. I mean, if you haven't figured that out, you know, everybody talked about the new normal. And I know there's a lot of resistance. People were like, well, let's not accept that because we don't want to call this the new normal. We want to actually go back to the way things were. And look, 99% of you over the past 6 months have worn a mask at some time. Or I mean, if you've flown on a plane, you wore a mask. And, you know, whether you like it or not, you've all adapted in some way, shape, or form to this new normal. Even if you refuse to wear a mask and now you don't travel on plane, that is your adaptation to the new normal. You know, and whether or not we want to call it normal, it's just new. It's the change in environment. And whether you accept that change in the environment or not, the environment is changing, and your business success, my friends, depends entirely on your ability to adapt. You know, you might have an infection in your body, and if your body doesn't identify the invader and fails to increase the temperature in an effort to ward off the invader, simply because it refuses to accept that there is an infection in the body, well, by definition, you are sick. So if you refuse to accept what is happening in the world, by definition, your business, if you're failing to adapt, by definition, is sick. So I want to point out something that's happening, because tonight we're here to talk about sales. And this is something that's absolutely critical and, frankly, was occurring well before the pandemic even arrived. You see, sales is changing. We're here to talk about sales. And we've seen this evolution of sales from the 1950s, where it was product-based. You know, in product-based selling, we would go door to door and we would knock on a door, and I would have a set of knives, a vacuum cleaner. I had one thing, and I would come to you and I would explain to you what my product was, the benefits of having it, and I would get you to buy that product. Now, if you said, I don't need knives, I actually need a hammer, well, too bad, because I'm here to sell you the knives. And in fact, I brought them. In the 1980s, we saw a shift to opportunity-based selling, where the greater the opportunity, right? We saw then from the industrial door to door, and now from the manufacturing, and now we're selling opportunity, right? We're beginning to see, this idea of a bubble, tech bubbles and housing bubbles, and we're selling opportunity. And people were, you either got in at the right time or you got out at the right time. And if you got in or out at the wrong time, well, this was extremely detrimental. In the 2000s, we shifted selling once again, and we started doing problem-based selling, also known as consultative selling. Now, for the majority of you, this is what you are still doing today. This is, you listen to somebody, you uptake the information, you diagnose the problem, you offer them a solution. If the solution fits what they think they wanted, then you win. And this is oftentimes what you guys are learning. This is what you are doing in your businesses. You listen to people, you diagnose the problem, and I'm not saying medically diagnose it. You identify and you understand the problem, and then you offer them a solution. And they either buy or not based off of your sales abilities, your scripting, etc. Well, in 2020, and when we did our Black Diamond Club sales workshop in March of 2020, we began the process of shifting our clients away from consultative selling onto what is known as leadership-based selling. You see, in this time, and this is, again, predates the pandemic, people are looking to be led. Now, why this is so important is because for so long, you have been instructed to not sell people what they need. First, sell them what they want so that we can eventually work our way through the consultative process and educate them about what they really need. And that was a smart way to do it. And I 100% agree if the year is 2019 or less or backwards. In 2020, this marks the advent of something brand new where people are looking to be sold based off of leadership. That means that people are not looking for what they want. People are looking to be told what they need. Hallelujah for the majority of you, because this is the moment that you have all been waiting for. However, unfortunately, because a lot of you are old dogs, I fear that you are not going to get on the train in time, and you're going to see the proliferation of a new lineup of experts and leaders, mostly led by the next generation. It's going to be the millennials and the Gen Zs that are stepping forward because they begin to understand the concepts of influence and leadership versus the old consultative selling that you are doing today. Now, if you will indulge me, the next 45 minutes, I would like to set the stage for you to begin. Now, I couldn't possibly teach you everything about leadership-based selling in 45 minutes. However, my intention tonight is to set the foundation for you. Remember, we began teaching this as a concept in Black Diamond Club in March of this year. Across the span of 2 full days in our Black Diamond Club sales workshop, we laid out that foundation. We've been working on these concepts inside of the Black Diamond Club ever since, along with our marketing strategies and our mindset strategies that we've been utilizing to create success in our clients amidst the pandemic. You too can learn these same things if you're willing. If you're with me, let's go. Your number one job when we are trying to be a leader is to help your prospect to make the best decision for them. So no longer is it about, I understand what you want. In leadership-based selling, the number one goal, and in fact, it can be stated, my job here is to help you to make the best decision for you. Now, granted, I might have a myriad of things. That's why I showed you all of the different businesses that I'm involved in, right? So yes, I could be doing a webinar every night and pitching a new thing and having videos and doing all of the things that all of the gurus do. But I understand that the positioning that needs to happen is that I must make you understand first. And in the teaching moment, you must make your community understand first that your number one job is to help them to make the best decisions for them, even if that means not working with you. This, by definition, is preeminence. You must convert yourself into your community's most trusted advisor. What that means is that this is, again, a departure from the understanding that you need to be an expert in one thing to you become not an expert necessarily, but an advisor. You become an advisor in many things. Now, it doesn't have to be all things. You might not be advising people on car repair and cooking, but if you are in the healthcare field, you most certainly must demonstrate a knowledge and an ability to advise your community on things related to the topic and have enough relational capital to, one, be able to invite experts in to edify your community, and two, be able to make referrals so that they are also boosted. The idea that you are the end all, the be all to all things is not going to fly in the world of leadership-based selling, and especially during a crisis. Leading people requires them to know that you have their best interest in mind, even over your own. So again, this idea of being preeminent. The movement is away from I am the authority. And I think you're beginning to see this, right? You're seeing the pushback in a crisis against a lot of the authority. I'm the boss, you should wear a mask. I'm the boss, you should do this. I'm the boss. And now people are beginning to say, hey, rather than just be told that you're the boss, they want to be led. People, this is just opening up right before your eyes. My friends, either you're on the train and you're prepping for your best year ever in 2021, or you're resistant or blind to it. And in which case, I really feel for you. I'll be talking to you in 2022, but you probably won't have the money that it's going to require for my help. For the first time, probably in your lifetime, people no longer want what they want. Now they want what they need. If you were with me for part one of this webinar series, you heard me talk about the data. So I'm not making this up. This is the data that says that people are making their buying time decisions based awful lot on price and value. And what that means is they're being forced to assess need versus want. And this is very interesting because the situation, the crisis, is causing need to outweigh want, not only on a subconscious level, but on a conscious level. If you fail to embrace this, you are going to miss opportunities because people are actually looking to you to give them advice, because you are their most trusted advisor. If you follow the marketing, you become the most trusted advisor, and they're looking to you to point them in the right direction based off of, or lead them in the right direction based off of need. And they're abandoning the idea that it centers around them and what they want. Now, if you're a big follower of my work, you know that I'm a big fan of the book Pendulum. In Pendulum, you know that we're 3 years away from the peak of the we society. So why are they abandoning this? Because they are now beginning, we hit the peak of the we society, and then they begin to move down into the me society, but not instantaneous. Remember, it's a 20-year run. And at the peak of the we, the collective still needs to be led. Now, there's going to be few that will step out and emerge as leaders. And again, as I said, either you're embracing what I'm talking about and you are in the running, or you refuse to hear what I'm talking about, in which case it will be the younger generations which will step forward and lead. I know for a lot of you, that's going to really irritate you because you think that those young whippersnappers, well, they don't know what they're talking about. So before we sell, I want to teach you how to sell, but before we sell, you must watch part one of the webinar series, right? You must watch part one of the webinar series where I taught you how to market and establish yourself as preeminent. Well, that means that you are benevolent. We talked about the benevolence campaigns that we've been running in Black Diamond Club that many people on the periphery from the outside attempted to emulate, but they only emulated a part of it. And so they never really got benevolence. They only looked gimmicky. And benevolence is not a gimmick. Benevolence is a trait. It's a personality trait. So you must develop this, and you must showcase your business as being benevolent. Why? Because a benevolent business is looking after or looking out for the best interest of the community that it serves. It's not just selling what it has to offer. It's benevolent. It recognizes that some people have needs that may extend past the monetary ability of some people to acquire your services. And it looks after the whole. Why? Because we are 3 years away from the peak of the we society. The collective is what moves the needle, not the individual. Number two, in order to be preeminent, you must embrace your community's worldviews. This is why I've been admonishing so many of you that you've got to get off all of your political stances, your anti-vaccine rants. And I mentioned before, what the heck happened to the chemtrails? So you guys were all on the chemtrails, and now all of a sudden, now there's pandemic. I guess the chemtrails disappeared, or you don't care about them. See, that's the danger, though, of getting on these little rants. You must embrace the way that your community views the world. I will tell you, too, and I pay a lot of attention to this. I will tell you, while the anti-vaccine position is a minority, it's not an overwhelming minority. So you could still embrace that as a worldview, but ranting it does not help you to become preeminent. Next is that you understand how to subtly communicate the cost of doing nothing, the cost of not being a part of the movement, the cost of not being a part of your community. We talked about the creation of VIP communities. Again, leveraging the concept of pendulum and the idea that people want to belong to something greater than themselves, that people now follow the herd. That's how they pulled this off. This was perfect timing because we are at the peak of the we society. Now, if we're at the peak of the me society, so if they try this stuff 40 years earlier or 40 years later, it doesn't work as well because people are more individualistic. The idea that one should wear a mask, not for oneself, but because they're protecting grandma and grandpa, preys on the mere fact that society is of this holistic we mindset. So you must begin to communicate to the collective, to the community, not the individual. This is not scare care. This is communicating through leadership the cost of not taking action. What I mean by that is the cost of not doing business with you, the cost of not receiving your services. Why? Because I've told you in the previous webinar that that is exactly what is in their subconscious mind as they're analyzing whether they should do it. Do I need this or do I want this? And again, remember, in a sales perspective, you've been taught for so long, only sell them what they want. Well, the difficulty is that so many people are now beginning to question whether or not what they want is the right thing, one, for them as the individual, but even more importantly, for the collective, right? Most people don't want, as an individual, to wear a mask. The fact that so many people are wearing masks is clear evidence that they've convinced the individual that the need to wear a mask exceeds the want and convenience. It's not convenient and they don't want to, but the need exceeds the want for the greater good of the collective. If you are blind to this, oh my, you're going to have difficulty making it through 2021. If you're resisting me still, give up your place on the webinar for someone else trying to get in, because this has happened right in front of your very eyes. Either you're learning and adapting, or you're resisting and you're ignorant to the invaders that have taken over the host, and you cannot possibly fight them if you're ignorant to them and you refuse to adapt. Next is you offer social proof. I'm going to tie 4 and 5 in. The way that you become preeminent is, I feel, and I said in part 1, you're going to need 2 tools, 2 vital tools to win in 2021 when it comes to your marketing. Number 1 is you're going to need relational capital. If I do a third webinar, I will do a third webinar on relational capital. I'm not promising that, but if I do one, that's what I'm going to do, because I feel like you need to have relational capital. The second tool that you're going to need is digital marketing. The reason why you need digital marketing is because you are being forced, and your community is being forced, to isolate. Now, even if you're like, well, I'm not in lockdown, still your ability to transact, the human connection, and your ability to communicate, my ability to reach you. That's why I'm doing webinars, because my ability to take a stage and speak to 300, 400, 500 people at a time has been greatly reduced. So has yours. Even if you're not a stage presenter, You still have to understand that your ability to network, to connect with 10 people at a time has been greatly reduced. So your digital marketing will give you an unfair advantage against the rest of your competitors if you are marketing with a tone of preeminence. So we're not talking about hyper discounted free chicken dinners. That would work to anybody that has not gotten up to speed. But in 2020, what we're going to do is we're going to market preeminence. And what we're going to do is we want to leverage endorsement over testimonial. So many of you place so much emphasis on testimonials. But what you're doing when you use testimonials is you're running an unknown, nameless, faceless person, especially if your testimonial says, Sean is great. He gave us chocolate cake. Brian B. Well, nobody knows who Brian B. is. I don't even know if that's real. So what you want to do is you want to begin to create relational capital now, get ahead of the game, and then leverage endorsement over testimonial. Endorsement is what will establish preeminence. I also want to point out that endorsement doesn't necessarily mean that the person endorsing you actually uses your service. A lot of people get caught up on that. Like, in order for me to get endorsement, I'm going to have to go out and get LeBron James to be my client. No, you could pay LeBron James a lot of money and he will endorse you without ever having been your client. A lot of people say to me, well, Sean, that's so unethical. Well, I always talk about, like, Shaquille O'Neal endorses, I think it's Buick or Oldsmobile. I don't think he actually drives that car. In fact, even as a prospect watching the marketing, I'm not thinking, wow, I bet Shaquille O'Neal has an Oldsmobile. I'm thinking, wow, Shaquille O'Neal, someone that I admire, who makes sound decisions, he endorses this product. That might be a good product for me. Which, by the way, is an aside here, just real quick. Well, I've got a slide. I'll bring it up in a second. So let me show you some examples of social proof and endorsement over testimonial. So you could appear with Jordan Belfort, the Wolf of Wall Street, on his podcast. And you could look that up on YouTube if you haven't heard Lacey and I with Jordan talking about sales, this very topic. So obviously, if the Wolf of Wall Street, the king of sales, when it comes to service providers, talks to Sean and Lacey, well, you probably should pay attention, because I don't know too many of the other gurus in this space who have been on that program. You could talk about my relationship with Mark Brazil and Jeff Cole over at Iconic. Amazing entrepreneurs putting out great art, and my passion for helping artists to reach more people, make a bigger impact, and create the lifestyle that they deserve. The world's greatest artists, much like Jeff, live in relative obscurity. Now, Jeff thankfully has Mark, and Mark is able to use his entrepreneurial skills to bring their work to as many people as possible. But again, the very fact that, we have a relationship, that I have their phone numbers in my cell phone and can text them at any time. I would say, for anybody teaching you entrepreneurial skills, you would ask, well, are they in these circles? Prince EA, summer camp, 2020 attendee. Not 2019, sorry, 2019 attendee. Didn't speak there. He bought a ticket. Well, you would have to ask yourself, well, as an endorsement, when somebody of that caliber comes to your event, you're used to going to events where you see a lot of people like yourself. Do you know people that put on events that would attract somebody of that caliber? You see, that then begins to establish preeminence when you just even have someone in the audience. A lot of people recognized him and went up to him and wanted to know what he was doing there. He was there to get better as a human being, because he's a great human being. Someone like Roger Stone. We just recently did a podcast on our podcast, None of Your Business, with Roger. Roger gave us great insights. You need to check that out. All major podcast platforms, which again, another preeminence. If you don't have a podcast, something that you should begin to investigate and look at. But you don't want to just have a podcast where you're talking to nobody. Look at our podcast. I think we have 60, 70 reviews, all 5-star. Very well received, well downloaded. Go to iTunes, Spotify, subscribe, leave us a review. We would appreciate that. And you'll see that we have conversations with people that position us as preeminent. So we're not just talking to just anybody. We're not desperate for guests, but we're looking to establish preeminence with our community. Now, as a pause here, two things. One, I wanted to tell you that Roger on the podcast talks about how the mind works when making decisions and how we must begin in 2020 to get used to moving people from having a preference, not necessarily straight to your service, but to the undecided box. And the same thing in politics. But you have a brand preference. Maybe I have a dentist that I like. And then if you are a dentist and you wanted me to come to see you, you wouldn't necessarily try and sell me on how you were better. You would first cast doubt about in me about my current dentist. And as you cast doubt in my current dentist, I move away from the dentist and I don't necessarily fall into you. I move first to undecided. The first move is from committed to undecided. And then from undecided, your marketing will move me over to you. Now, if you are lucky enough to get the replay of this webinar, I've already begun to do that to you in this very webinar. I'm not trying to convince you on me yet, but I am subtly attacking what you previously believed. And by the way, giving you supporting evidence that it is true. This is exactly the sales strategy that I am advocating for you, that you are currently living with me. I've shown you proof of it. If someone like Jordan Belfort says that we're good, and you can look on YouTube and iTunes and find out what he says about us. If someone like him speaks at my event, then maybe you should listen to me. And I'm not saying necessarily to abandon your current guru, but I am beginning to move you. Again, this is a giant experiment to move you away from your cherished old beliefs of consultative selling and selling them what they want versus getting them what they need, or is withholding what they need until way later when I'm giving you clear evidence that the world is moving as a collective, and I'm giving you clear evidence that they are being sold what they need over what they want. If you're missing that point, then you're probably not going to do business with me ever because you are so committed to your old cherished beliefs. So now that we've established that, let's talk about how we sell. We in Black Diamond Club teach this Black Diamond Club sales ladder. It's a 10-step process, and everybody in your world is somewhere on that ladder. Now, you, if you're watching this, you are somewhere on that ladder with me. You should take a moment to say, where am I with Sean? You know, I doubt that I have many of my private clients watching this. Frankly, if you ever saw the actual roster of the people that I privately coach, it's very impressive. It's the leaders. It's people that you probably are consuming from, that you probably are buying stuff from them. So they're probably not here because they're on like step 11. They're already through the process. IPO group coaching, they're through the process. But you are somewhere on this ladder here. Identify right now where you are. Say, well, I've obviously we're beyond established rapport because you're on the webinar. You actually have already given me your name and email. So we're past get permission to sell because you already volunteered that up. You showed up. If you're watching me live, even if you're watching me recorded, you showed up. So you qualified yourself. A lot of you might be stuck on building value, like, well, I'm a part of this tribe or that group or this, and so I don't know why I would want to do anything with you, but it's free and I like free stuff. I'm a freeple person, and so you could be there. Maybe you already understand who I am and the value that I provide. Maybe you've seen testimonials or heard endorsements from some of my clients, and the incredible ROI that I'm able to generate. You've seen the 6 and 7 figure results that I've created in individuals that have literally come from making, say, $10,000 a month to $80,000 plus a month. Maybe you've watched that and you're like, wow, I want that. Maybe you already want it, but you have some objections. Timing's not right. You could be there. Maybe I've never even given you the opportunity to work with me. Maybe you just signed up from someone else. Maybe we're just about to close and we're not yet there. Maybe you have already had a conversation with me. I doubt that, but maybe you're here and you're just kind of mulling it over. And then the last step is after the sale is done. I also then want to encourage you to, one, find out where you are on that ladder with me because you're all somewhere. But number two, a great exercise is to take what we call your network of 90 in the Book Yourself Solid world. And if you're not yet in a part of the Book Yourself Solid community with Matthew Kimberly, that's free. You should look that up on Facebook. Tell Matthew that I sent you. Tons of value in there. Matthew was one of the first persons that influenced me on my trajectory to get me here. Matthew and Michael Port. Matthew was really one of the key teachers in teaching me the Book Yourself Solid system on my way to becoming a Book Yourself Solid certified coach. Make sure that you check that out and understand that, so you begin to understand your ideal client, your target market. You know what you're presenting. And then now, and I would say this to Matthew, one of the things I think was the weak part of Book Yourself Solid is it didn't really teach me in-depth, elongated, step-by-step sequence of how to sell. And that's why we created this. And so let me walk you through these 10 steps, and then I'll show you how the offer works. So number one, you have to establish rapport. And so how do you establish a rapport in a crisis? Well, you establish rapport by leading. Again, in the consultative selling world, you establish rapport by asking questions, by being genuinely interested. And there's nothing wrong with genuine interest. But in a crisis, I don't want you to ask me what I did last weekend or what kind of food I like to eat. I'm looking to be led. So in a crisis, and look, for a lot of you, just frankly, you're just not leading because you're stuck in your old way and you're still asking them about how their hunting trip went. And did they watch the Clemson game last weekend? Folks, in times of difficulty, the leaders step out and they lead. They're not establishing rapport by questioning. They're establishing rapport by leadership. Where are they leading? Well, they're doing it through digital marketing, through Facebook Lives, through sharing videos, through email marketing, through connecting to people in a leadership role. This is great news, people, because no longer do you have to go and knock on people's doors one at a time like we're selling vacuum cleaners and shake their hands and say, I'm Sean Dill, I'm running for office. Can I count on your vote? Look at how politics works. That's not the prevailing methodology, although it is very strong and still does work to this day. As I mentioned in webinar number 1, the prevailing methodology is to step out and lead. Even though I recognize that Donald Trump's ground game was incredible in this last election and led to a very narrow defeat, what really helped him was he did these massive rallies where he stepped on stage and led, not in one-to-one, but in one-to-many. This is your opportunity to establish rapport through the very same methodology, the same strategies. Once we have rapport, which now in today's world doesn't really take that long to establish, then we get permission to sell. Here's the great news, friends. Leaders already have permission to sell. They're looking to you for guidance. So that's why we place so much emphasis in today's world on preeminence, because the preeminent leader, who is the most trusted advisor, is being looked upon for advice. In today's world, whether you agree or not, again, this is simple business instruction. You need to recognize that Dr. Fauci has been positioned, has gained rapport, and been positioned with the majority opinion, and he does not need to ask for it. He has permission to sell his ideology, his philosophies to whoever is receiving the message via television, media, digital media, etc. So that's good news for you too. The next is you must qualify the prospect. Well, I've been preaching in Black Diamond Club that COVID has actually been one of the greatest opportunities that has arisen for service-based providers. You just must withstand the turbulence. You must withstand the storm. And then you have been afforded the greatest excuse ever in the history of your business. So a lot of people that are in healthcare, they don't want to have people pay per visit. I've advocated monthly payments, recurring revenue, predictable recurring revenue for my entire consulting career. Many people were resistant to that because they felt like their clients wanted to pay per visit. Well, now because of COVID, we're able to completely eliminate that. You're able to say to your clients, listen, we're going to have to put you on monthly because we can't be touching your checks and money. I mean, you've already seen this effort where now people have eliminated coins, whether it's fabricated or not, this supposed coin shortage, and now they don't even take coins. We don't have coins, you don't have coins. So guess what? Now you need to use your credit card. Well, now the next step forward is, and I don't want to touch your credit card. Now, whether you believe philosophically or not with COVID, again, I'm talking about embracing worldviews. Therefore, amongst the majority community, this makes all the sense in the world. You must make monthly payments so that I can take your card, get the payment set up, and not have to exchange your card with you because of COVID. This is the perfect opportunity for every single one of you viewing to raise your prices. Why? Because of COVID. Where I get my haircut charges a $5 premium because of COVID. And that is literally the explanation. Here's the fee plus $5 COVID. Well, what do you mean? Well, because we have to sterilize and clean and we can't have as many people in the place. Therefore, I mean, you understand. So I got to charge you $5 more. Look, this is the greatest opportunity to qualify people. And then lastly, I believe that this type of communication done virtually, electronically, this is the new skill that every single one of you is going to need, and that I think that frankly, the majority of you are missing. But you are now able to pre-qualify all of your prospective clients by forcing them to do this, to have an interview. Now, you don't know if I am wearing shorts or slacks. I just have to have the right top on, and then I need a computer and maybe a microphone, a camera, and maybe some amateurish lighting, and I'm all set. And I can qualify you without wasting anybody's time. And I can tell you that the reason why we're going to do it this way is because of COVID. Because I don't want you to have to get in your car and come down and waste everyone's time and waste my time and potentially expose my staff and you and my clients to all of this nonsense. So here, let's just talk this way on the computer and see whether or not you're qualified. Well, this is great for me, and this is great for you, because now I'm not wasting my time taking phone calls. I'm here just on a webinar. And if you want to work with me in the future, that's great. And you will. And if you don't, well, that's also great too. And I didn't waste any time. I just spoke to the group, and then those that want to go forward, they're going to emerge by teaching you to do exactly what I'm doing now. You see, that's the beauty of what it is that we do in Black Diamond Club, is we teach you to do what we're doing. You know, the majority of the gurus out there, they have their own methodology, and that's how they hook you and get you in. But then once you get in, they teach you something completely different. And I'm not even saying like, you know, the ones that are in the trenches. Of course, that's what they do in their office, but that's not what they did to get you, to sell you. They should teach you the marketing and sales strategies that they used themselves to get you to give them money. That's what we do in Black Diamond Club. We're doing that right now. Next, once they're qualified, then they get to go on to the building value and creation of desire phase. And this is where things are changing, because as I said previously, the community, the world is beginning to assess need versus want. This is a major shift because people are saying, do I need this or do I want this? And here's the bad news, folks, is want is losing. If I just want it, but I don't need it, then no buy. And you've been taught that you should get them to want it, and who cares what they need? I'll tell them that later. And the world is shifting. People want to know, what do I want? What do I need? People want to know, what do I need? Do I need to wear a mask? Do I need to get the vaccine? Do I need to wash my hands? Do I need hand sanitizer? But then they're also thinking, well, do I need new tires? Do I need, right? So that those fall into the same, do I need to get a massage every month? Do I need that or do I want that? Because if it's a want, I'm going to get rid of it. Why? Because things are tight. If you cannot begin to communicate and sell into people's needs because you got stuck learning a script that only sold people what they want, oh, you're in for a wild ride in 2021, because people are going to begin to emerge looking for what they need. And by the way, if you don't believe that marketing is a thing, because all it is just, you know, it's all one continuing of getting them what they want. Well, my friends, the whole thing about how they determine what they need is because they see your marketing. They establish with themselves that rapport, and they establish with themselves that you are in fact preeminent. And then once they understand that they need it, they still might not be convinced that they are going to take action now. The tipping point when we're building value to creating desire is this idea of the cost of inaction. Now, I love to ask people, what is it that you actually want? Now, I remember I told you that, well, I'm going to sell you what they need, but hang on a second. I'm going to ask you what you want. You're going to say, well, you know, this is what you want. But I also know that you're here. This is the most important thing, because you wanted me to tell you what you need. This is different than it was even just 2 short years ago. But then I'm going to ask you, what is the motivation to do that? So I know that you want this thing, but what is the motivation to do that? This is a critical question. It could even come in the qualifying phase, actually. But if there is not a significant motivation to take action, then that prospect is not going to close. I mean, this is a real deal question you would ask somebody. What do you want? And what's the motivation? Why do you want that so bad? And then now if they have a big enough want, like, hey, I've got to do this, I got to feed my family, or I've got to be able to work, or whatever it is, then we can go on to the next question, which is what happens if you do not figure this out. And now that, my friends, is the transition to need. What happens if you don't figure this out? Is that in your script? Well, if you're consultative selling, of course it's not, because consultative selling is what's your problem? Look how important I am. Look how smart I am. Hey, man, this is what I'm going to recommend. This is different. This is needs assessment versus wants assessment. And it starts with, I get it. You don't know what you need, but you know what you want. So let me ask you what you want. Let me ask you why that's so important. Then let me ask you what will happen if you don't get that figured out. Now that they have assessed that, now if they get stuck on those questions, I don't go any further. I'm done. If you can't figure out the cost of inaction, then you're just like, well, I don't know. Then maybe I would just be like, not nearly as happy as I am tomorrow. And you have some weak answer. Well, then there's no reason to go on to the next step. The next step is overcoming objections in advance. Now, I never want to wait for objection. In fact, I've been doing this to you the whole webinar already. Again, you might have to get the replay. I never want you to actually be able to voice your objections to me. I want to read your objections subconsciously, and I want to crush those objections before they make it from your subconscious to your conscious to your mouth. Because oftentimes once they hit your mouth, it's too late. So I will use words like, if you're like most people, you're probably thinking, well, what does Sean know? I've been really good over here with my tribe. After all, I've made $20,000 a month this year. And then I would tell you, but you obviously don't know people like Clay Mosley. Clay Mosley came to me and he was making around $20,000. Now he has a 7-figure digital marketing agency. That's impressive, but that's an objection. Now, do you need 7 figures? I don't know. That's up to you. You're going to have to assess how badly you want it and what would happen if you didn't get there. And if 20,000 is comfortable for you, then frankly, working with me is not the best fit. So the way that we're able to anticipate these objections is you observe and you make a list of all the possible objections. Look, if you've been in business for any amount of time, you know the objections that these people would have. They voice them to you. And so you just begin to preemptively handle those objections, and we stop waiting for somebody to tell you that they have them. And it's super easy just by saying, well, if you're like most people, you're probably wondering, if he could help me to get to $1 million, I wonder how much he charges. And that's a great question. And then you present the offer. One of the things that I need for you to understand is, in the world of leadership-based selling, nothing is more damaging to you than making offers to people that you should not be making offers to. I mean, this is just business suicide. Now, in old school, hardcore sales, we're doing, Oakmont Stratton. We're calling people, like, you make offers and then you just get their objections, and then you loop them right back on the line, and you insist, and you don't let go of that bone until they buy. Either they buy or they die. Well, that's not leadership-based selling. Leadership-based selling is being able to analyze through the process. So I told you earlier that when I ask what's the incentive, why is this so important? If they can't answer, I back off. There is no offer, because that's not the right fit. And the worst thing that could happen is that in leadership-based selling, I actually present the offer and go for the close. Because the worst thing that could happen is I actually close somebody that's not the right fit. Because as I do that, that begins to erode away on my preeminence. Right? Because I am no longer the most trusted advisor. Their needs are no longer ahead of mine. I'm just here to sell them. And slowly but surely, as I do that, my preeminence goes away. The community begins to see through. They understand that I'm in it for myself. And in a we-dominated society from 2020 to 2023, that is business suicide. And not lastly, but in this process here, we close with integrity. Closing means that you just shut up. Now, I know everybody's like, you present the offer, then you shut up. Right. But closing means once I hit this point, I'm done selling. And now I'm only answering questions. And I only answer the question that you ask me. You ask me questions, I answer. That's how you close. People are like, what's the close? What do you mean, what's the close? The close is you ask me questions. Like you could ask me, how much does it cost? But a lot of people don't ask that. Sometimes they skip that and they go to sign me up. You might ask me, well, what's the commitment? You might ask me a lot of things. How do I get started? I'm not going to anticipate that because you may just say, so where do I pay? Right? So I don't know what your question will be that finally leads to you giving me the money, but I'm going to patiently wait. I might wait 5 minutes, 30 minutes. This is the true essence of shutting up and allowing your client to process and then eloquently and efficiently and effortlessly move to giving you money. The more you talk here, the worse it goes. And then as they ask questions, you answer, and this is round and round we go. They might, through their questioning, present objections. They might, through their questioning, reveal that they did not understand the offer. They might, through their questioning, reveal that they don't see you as an authority, right? So all of these things, as they ask the question, I don't anticipate now. I already anticipated earlier in handling objections in advance. Now they actually, I'm sitting there waiting to see what kind of armor they might throw at me. And I just deflect all of their questions by answering directly only the question that they ask. Then once we get there, the deal is done if I've sufficiently answered all the questions. And then we have the morning after. I'm going to tell you step number 10 in our sales ladder is the most often overlooked because so often we invest so much time and energy into the sales process. And after we get the close and we get their money, we are so hungry to move on to the next prospect and close them. Because after all, we're being trained to be stone cold killers. Well, in leadership-based selling, the morning after is absolutely critical. I mean, if you get the lexicon, the morning after, that's when you actually show that this wasn't a one-time thing, that I actually do put your interests above my own, that I do appreciate, value the relationship and the commitment, both financial and time, and that I do have your best interests at heart. There are so many things that you can do, from a handwritten note to a gift, to having a phone call, to having other clients call and welcome them. All kinds of things that you can do to reassure your client, not waiting for them to express that they're having doubts, but anticipating that through your morning after strategies. So I want to conclude with these two types of selling that we've been teaching in 2020. It's pre-selling and FOMO selling. And now I talked about this on webinar number 1, and this is the actual Facebook post. I didn't boost this post. I didn't do anything tricky to it. On November 9th, I posted a post that said, with everyone talking about the election, the vaccine parlor, etc., how do you ensure that your message cuts through all of that and hits your ideal prospects? Maybe I should do a webinar on that. Comment, I would go if you want me to tell you how to do this for free. Let's see, 55 likes and 305 comments. That, my friends, is called pre-selling. Now, I saw a lot of swipe and deploys, and I'm a huge fan of swipe and deploy. Everything that I'm teaching you today, it's free because it's a free webinar. So feel free, use it, reuse it, deploy it, teach it to other people. My whole thing is, if you do use content that's not yours, just give credit to where it's due. But I don't actually even care if you want to take this to your groups, to whatever you want to do. You want to debate it. I'm confident enough that I know what I'm teaching, and I know what my material is, and I know where it's gotten me in life. This, my friends, is called pre-selling. Now, in the swipe and deploy phase, I saw a lot of people take this and put their Facebook post that said, if I did a webinar, what would you want me to do it on? No. Pre-selling says, I actually put what the webinar was in the pre-sale. I said, with everyone talking about the election, the vaccine parlor, etc. So obviously in this, the assumption is that I've already built rapport, that I've established myself as preeminent, that I have permission to sell, and I offered up the solution for what they need. I didn't ask them what they want. You see, that's the giant mistake. Those people that said, like, if I did a webinar, what would you want me to talk about? People wrote everything, like cats, how to make a turkey, origami, like they just wrote whatever they want. I did not do that. See, this is where, and that's a clear cut. Like, you don't understand how to sell in 2021. You need help. If your version of swipe and deploy was open-ended, this was not open-ended. This was saying, I've established myself, I have rapport, I'm preeminent, I'm going to tell you what you need. You need to know how to ensure that your message cuts through all of that and hits your ideal prospects. And then what I said is, if I did that, comment I would go if you would want to be a part of it. And it would be free. That, my friends, is pre-selling. There was nothing to register for. I was planting the idea in advance so I could test the reception to it. The second type of selling is called FOMO selling. And so the FOMO selling says, on the same day, on November 9th, I wrote a second post. And I said, well, what if my second webinar taught you how to pre-sell 90 plus people? Well, look, in reality, the first webinar had over 300 registrations. This one, very much the same. If I taught you how to pre-sell 90 plus people into your webinar before you even made it, so I pre-sold and now FOMO selling, because if you weren't there, now you're going to miss out on this and you're not going to know how to do it. Comment duh if you're in. Again, I want to point out, I wasn't asking what you wanted me to do the webinar. I was pre-selling in number one, and then I was FOMO selling, like what would happen, remember the cost of inaction, what would happen if you didn't actually subscribe to the information? Well, you would miss out. One, how to get your message to cut through. Two, who doesn't want to know how to pre-sell something and get people to commit to it before you've even made it? Well, now if you've watched part one and part two, now you can go out and emulate. And the nice thing about the gap is I got to see the little missteps that happened as you guys attempted to swipe and deploy. And again, I want to just say for clarity, I'm all for swipe and deploy. I expect to see you guys then utilizing these same strategies. If you're going to use a webinar strategy, we're going to, because you know, not because you guessed, understand your ideal clients, the problems that you solve, and we're going to pre-sell the potential of you solving them. And then we're going to get them to act, and then we're going to push then once the solution is available back into the people that it's called a hand raiser that raise their hands. And then once we have traction on that, then we can leverage FOMO to begin to indicate to the rest of the community the cost of not taking action, the fear of missing out, right? Exact same thing. You're not a part of it. You're going to somehow be behind if you weren't on today's webinar. And I agree, I hope you agree, that if you were not on today's webinar, that you are behind, that you missed out on critical information. You're going to be stuck in your consultative selling. You're going to have a hard time marketing and selling when 2021 comes around, because things are going to be the same. And so I want to show you an example of that. I want to show you an example of how all of this works. If you don't believe me, right as this is running, this is 1,000,000% true. So this is the other thing. A lot of people, I've got to tell you, one, this is one of my core values. I've been extremely blessed though, because my core values, I haven't been forced to change any core values in the face of what's happened in the world. One of my core values is always marketing and selling from a place of integrity. If you know anything about me, when I say like we don't do anything free, we really don't. Like I'm a big believer in value. I'm way more expensive than your current coach. There are big time entrepreneur coaches that charge the same or sometimes even less than me. And that's fine, but I'm a big believer in value. I'm not a big believer in discounting. I'm also not a big believer in these phony marketing tactics where people are like, oh, the early bird discount expires on December 1st. Just kidding. It's been extended to December 15th. The whole, oh, we're sold out. And then you get there and it's like when we are sold out, we're actually sold out. If you've ever been to an event of ours, when it's sold out, it's sold out. Like you don't ever go there and be like, how is 48 people sold out? Like, no, the room is packed to the gills and there's nowhere to put anybody, because believe me, when we're sold out, I still have other people trying to get in. So here's my premise. Do all of these things. And as I've been doing this webinar, I've been selling you on an idea. But this idea now in this close, as I present the offer, is based 100% in integrity. I mean, 110% in integrity. You could check this, whether you're watching it live, check me on this, or you're watching it in replay. And that would be even good. Make a note somewhere. So I'm going to go back and check this in 2 weeks. It's still going to be the same. Watch. Go to www.blackdiamondclub.com. Quick shout out to Clay Mosley. He just redid that website. If you're looking for a new website, hit up Clay Mosley. He does a fantastic job. When you get to that website, all you're going to do is you're going to click on the events tab up at the top. And when you click on the events tab, it's going to go to this page. You'll see that we offer 4 signature events every year. So we do our sales workshop in the spring. We do Money Matters in the summer. We do our marketing workshop every year in the fall. It's always at a very luxurious place. So we have a little break and get away and plan our 2020 or next year, or plan for this case 2021. We were just at Marco Island just a few weeks ago. And again, 125 people in attendance. Our smaller workshops outsell most major events that you may go to. And then, of course, summer camp. This year, it's being held in August in Indianapolis. The room fits 500. If you've been in any of our previous iterations, we held one right during COVID with 380 people in the room. The room fit more, but because of the mitigation plans for COVID, that was the absolute max. If you ask anybody that was there, we put as many people as we could in the room. We didn't have room for any more. This year, we're going to top out at 500. We fully expect that event to sell out. So what you're going to do is you're going to click on the sales workshop one on the far left. And when you click on the sales workshop, it's going to go here. It's going to tell you information. We're holding this on March 26th and 27th in Phoenix, Arizona. It tells you, what we're going to teach you. It tells you who's teaching you. And then you're going to click on reserve your seat. And what's going to happen is you're going to end up here. And that's absolutely true. I have no more spots. We've sold out the room in Phoenix, Arizona. However, one of the things that we always do is I hold back some of the seats in the room, and I hold them back for our VIP clients because our VIP clients always have referrals. Again, please swipe and deploy. So the only way into this workshop is that you happen to know one of my private coaching clients or group coaching clients who can get you a link to get one of the last, and I'm talking last single digit remaining seats, less than 10, right? And this is the God's honest truth. You can check my record. You come to this workshop and you're like, hey man, there was only 34 people in there. Well, then do not ever do business with me again, because I'm telling you, we are maxing out the room in the beautiful, I think it's at the Renaissance Hotel in Phoenix, Arizona. It's going to be fantastic. We put on great events, but I can get you in because I am the most VIP of all the VIP clients, but I can only do it for you if you act now. If you are not yet in BDC, I cannot help you because I don't preach out there to the masses and the whoever's, the sideliners. Step number one, you've got to be in BDC. So join BDC, go back to the website, www.blackdiamondclub.com, join BDC. Then, or if you are already in BDC, you can email me at sean@blackdiamondclub.com, but you've got to do it tonight. If you're watching on replay, not valid, live viewers only. Join BDC, send me an email. I can still get you a seat to the sold out Black Diamond Club sales workshop where I and Lacey will spend 2 full days, her and I, roll up our sleeves and teach you exactly how to sell step by step, whatever it is you do, not just for chiropractors, how to sell step by step, leadership-based selling, unlike anything that you've ever learned before, how to sell step by step, leadership-based selling in a crisis. And you're going to come out of there with a plan on how to come out of this bigger and better, making 2021 your best year ever. Please replay this back in your mind. I want you to use these strategies, this webinar, the subtle things that I did along the way, because that's how I teach, is I teach by doing it while I'm teaching you. We'll see whether or not it works. Usually it works out pretty good for me. Scott's chiming in that he bought his tickets on first release. And that's great, Scott, because successful people are decisive. You, if you're watching and you're not yet registered, if you want to have your greatest year ever, you need to be decisive. You need to take action, and you need to understand the difference between need versus want. People aren't coming to this workshop because they want to. Phoenix is nice, but it's not glorious. We're not going on vacation. We're going to this workshop because we need to. We are committed to reaching more people, making an even bigger impact in the face of a crisis, in the face of an epidemic, in the face of all of the things that are going on in the world. We're committed to making an impact. And as a result, we get to live the lifestyle that each and every one of you deserves. I believe so much in each and every one of you that I know I can help you. I know I can help you reach more people. I hope that you'll take advantage of this offer today. That's all I've got for you guys today. Thank you so much for being with us. I value, appreciate, and cherish each and every one of you. If you found some value tonight, share with me on social media, shoot me an email, let me know what you got out of it. That just only encourages me and motivates me to do more of this free content. So if you're finding value, just let me know. I'll be happy to tackle relational capital next if there is a demand for it. Until next time, you know what I'm going to say. See ya.